Up next, I've got John Kinder from RetailMeNot. He's an analyst. John, would you care to tell us what you do at RetailMeNot? Tell us about the company. And
Sure, yeah.
Cool.
So, I'm John. I'm a analyst on our team of traditional BI within the company. Typically, the analysis that I do, I center a lot around advertising data, as well as kind of our content that we have, and then mobile analytics. I mean, right now, you just can't escape mobile analytics, not touching anything of what you're doing, it seems like, especially in the e-commerce kind of retail area. It's very hot right now. And then RetailMeNot itself, I think our company says we're the largest digital marketplace of online coupons. We do coupons, we do
cool.
deals. That's what we do.
Nice.
So we help users get connected to the merchants that they care about, and also merchants really be able to touch the users that they want to reach out to.
Cool. So it's very, very data driven in all those points. How long have you been using Tableau?
We've been using Tableau longer than I've been at the company. I've been at RetailMeNot about 2 years now.
Okay.
And we were using it at least 3 to 6 months before that. So it's definitely a part of our infrastructure now. We really rely on it quite a bit to kind of get our data disseminated out to all the different user groups we have.
Great. And what else? What does your data picture look like? Could you just draw us like the high level where the data comes from? Where does it sit?
So we have a lot of systems bringing in data. As you can imagine, since it's an e-commerce kind of online site, we have data coming in from our own internal systems. So we have our own trackers for things like impressions, page views, data renderings on advertisements specifically I deal a lot with, as well as a lot of kind of external data that comes into. So we work with traditional affiliate networks. So for those, we'll actually pull in their data for transactions as well as orders. We get our own clicks, but we can kind of standardize that against what they're showing as well. On top of that, we have beacons, Bluetooth beacon data that we come in from actual retailer stores. We look at data from actual merchants themselves, as well as kind of like external data that we compare stuff against. So, like geo data, that sort of thing.
Cool. So you guys even started getting your fingers wet in a little bit of IoT sort of stuff as well.
Yeah.
So what were some of the challenges with that? I think you're one of the first guests that I've had with how many simultaneous events do you have to consume?
We have a lot.
Okay, lots.
I don't do the reporting on that myself, so I wouldn't be able to speak to all the specifics, but I know that we have a lot of stores that are doing it right now. One of our engineers has been on South by Southwest panels, a lot of different kind of exposures for the work that we've done there. And it's really cool to be able to see that. We can now tell the user story of a user walks into the store. We can see they went in, they looked at automotive stuff for a while, and then they walked away, and then they came back to automotive.
Sure.
And if they do that a couple times, we can tell they've got this kind of they're like, maybe they'd get something if we could give them a good deal, and so we can go ahead and push them a good offer or a good coupon at that point, and that might be enough to drive them to purchase the actual item itself.
Oh, that is brilliant. You probably work cross retailers as well.
For sure.
To be able to say somebody's going in to buy a car stereo system, and he might be going to another vendor to get speakers or something.
Certainly.
Right, cool. And I understand, so Black Friday and Cyber Week, obviously big weeks for you as well. How do you deal with that deluge?
Yeah, so it's a big deal for us for sure. Yeah. We most of the work that we do around Black Friday, Cyber Week is all in the preparation leading up to it, as well as just kind of a very quick post-mortem once it gets done. So leading up to it, we try to identify all the reporting that's going to be necessary going into that, and then kind of identify any sort of anomalies along the way. I'll talk about this a little bit on Thursday during my talk, but one of my favorite stories is we have a very strong user base, people that are in our community and submit coupons to us. And we have a couple users who do really well at certain merchants, and one of them got sick for a little while, and then she went on vacation, and we were able to pick up on that in the data and reach out to her and be like, hey, how are you doing?
That's great.
Can we send you some flowers or something? And it ended up she was fine, and she got right back on, submitting us coupons for those kind of very not really well-known merchants. But it was content that we were able to pick up on that we were missing. So proper prep ahead of time is really important, and then just kind of getting all our ducks in a row for a really quick postmortem so that we can pivot immediately after Cyber Week finishes up and just really do a banger job for the rest of the season too.
Very, very cool. And what were some of the reports that you create leading up to that, is some of the data that you're capturing in those reports and reporting on, was that machine learning generated, or was it pretty much all just came from your ideas that you're following up with?
A lot of it's ideas that we follow up with. We certainly are trying to get more and more sophisticated as we go into it. Specifically, our team, especially since I've been here, our team has grown significantly especially with the diverse backgrounds we have. We actually have quite a few analysts now that do a lot better job for building out models and implementing our like machine learning algorithms, that sort of thing. But yeah, we definitely work very closely with engineering to try and put our best foot forward in terms of personalizing offers and trying to figure out the best way to analyze the data and how that in real time impacts the users.
Very, very cool. And so let's talk about Tableau specifically. How do you guys use that, and what are some of the big learnings that you've gotten from it?
Yeah. So I'm surprised whenever I meet someone at our company who doesn't have at least server access to Tableau.
Cool.
It is a big part of our data dissemination model. We use it both in terms of the recurring extracts for data so that it refreshes regularly, as well as just gives our kind of like data munging users, the ones who really want to get in the weeds and kind of parse stuff out. We really rely on it heavily to kind of do that work for us. That way, traditional BI is never the hang up. We more take a shepherding position, make sure that the data that they're trying to pull is correct, as well as just making sure we normalize everything going into it. We can give really good guidance. Saying that, of course, we still do external reports and ad hoc analysis, but Tableau definitely plays a major part in kind of how we get data out to everyone on all of our teams.
Cool. And I'd imagine, so some of the features that we heard this morning, especially I would guess...
I'm super excited about them, yeah.
Totally, especially like the one that I was thinking of, especially for you guys, typically you're interested most in what happened the last 24 hours to maybe week, and then you've probably got slower, colder data stores for that. Like, what are some of the features that came out today that you're like, we can totally make use of that? Just give me the short list.
I personally probably won't use the geofencing ones as much, but oh man, some of the server enhancements where we see like how many views it's been in the last week. We rely on that data all the time. Like we kind of pull our own extracts out of the back end of Tableau, just to see what reports are getting used, which ones aren't. And so from a management perspective, that's going to be huge for us.
Cool.
Man, I could go on about all the cool new features. I'm pretty excited about it. Yeah.
Excellent. And what are some of the other like events that you're going around to here? Obviously, the big party tonight. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yep, going to the party tonight. I already got my reservation for the zip line.
What's your gambling sin of choice?
Probably poker. I went around last night and kind of saw what I wanted to do, but I haven't gone out yet.
I might see you at the tables.
I think my wife is actually watching this right now. So, honey, I haven't lost our money yet.
Big business meeting this evening, dear. Big business meeting. Cool. But what are some of the other events and some of the other things that you're looking forward to in the conference itself?
Sure. Definitely looking forward to the keynote. I'm a scientist by trade, actually.
Really?
That's what I studied in school, and that's how I started my career.
Okay.
So Neil deGrasse Tyson is definitely on my short list of things to go to.
Doesn't get bigger than that.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, doing that. My talk's on Thursday that I'm giving here, and then there's quite a few other speakings that I'm really interested in going to. I know Netflix is here and some other kind of big name companies that we really respect, especially in kind of like how they do personalization. So definitely looking forward to seeing what I can gain from those too. Cool.
So you mentioned personalization a couple times now. Can you talk at all about how Tableau maybe helps out with that as well, or?
Yeah, I mean for us it's all about iterating fast. So we'll try different algorithms to see what'll work, or we'll try just seeing what users care about when we slice the data.
Right.
And Tableau definitely makes that a lot easier. We can pull kind of one extract out of our database and then slice it several times before we have to kind of go back and retweak anything. And that gives a lot of power. I mentioned our team is pretty diverse. I personally have more of a, I guess, technical background. I'm kind of I do a lot with SQL and data architecture.
Got it.
But for sure, some of our analysts are more statistical minded, or they'll do more of the kind of just basic stats work to try and figure that out. And they might not have as strong as skills within the SQL, so we can come in and kind of help them with that portion of it once to get the data that they want, and then they can go crazy on Tableau, which is really helpful for us.
Cool. And on the building algorithm side, do you find you have to really hyper specialize? Or you kind of look for jack of all trades folks, or folks who?
A little bit of both. We definitely have some specialized folks, but we really like people with kind of diverse background, kind of jack of all trades too.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. And what are some of like the Tableau features that you use on a day-to-day that you just could not live without?
Now, level of detail. I was really excited to get that feature built in.
Can you describe what that is for the users that don't?
So the level of detail calculation lets you basically within a view set either a fixed level of detail or even add a level of detail where it isn't necessarily apparent. So I have when I report on something like advertising data, our sales team, essentially our sales team, they like to see the impressions of what those individual spots are doing, but it gets confusing when you try to aggregate that across multiple ads within that same slot. And so what I can do is I can fix that level of detail just at the spot itself on a daily basis, so that as you look at the week or the day or the month, it doesn't get confusing by pulling in a whole lot of extra stuff that isn't necessarily relevant. You don't artificially inflate numbers, and you have a lot more control to make things intuitive, I guess is the best way to put it.
I hear you. And with all the data that you guys have flowing across your wires, do you find like bandwidth? You guys are mainly inside of your own data center, is that correct?
Mainly, yeah. I mean, we definitely pull in data from Google Analytics and a lot of other popular sources, but yeah, for sure, we have tons of data on our own.
Do you find that you're constantly adding new networking equipment, or is that seems to be a big bottleneck for a lot of folks these days? The bandwidth itself.
Yeah. I mean, we're adding new sources all the time, and that's definitely kind of the development QA side of that definitely can be a sticking point for us. And so, like with a recent project I'm on right now, actually, we've had to get a lot of ducks in a row to try and get the data proper as it is. And then I have users ask me like, well, how fast can we get this into a report? And I'm like, well, by the end of the day that we get it, I mean, the battle now is more just getting the data, cleaning it, making sure it's okay, kind of on our engineering side. And then once we go to visualize the data, it's very easy. And I largely credit Tableau for a lot of that.
Cool. Yep. And what do you guys use? Do you have any like real-time analytics engines like Spark or anything like that? Or pretty much Tableau is covering all the bases there?
Not that I know of. I know we have some dashboards with some like internal stuff that engineers have built.
Yep.
But I think Tableau is mostly what we use. I probably wouldn't be the one to talk about that.
Okay.
Though.
And then API stuff. Do you guys work? I could imagine you have a lot of stuff that you deal with the API back and forth.
Certainly. We pull them in as ever we can. I was actually pretty excited about Salesforce coming in a lot cleaner now too, because traditionally we've used Salesforce API to pull in data as well, and even still that takes a little bit of engineering to kind of get everything piped correctly.
Yep.
Now we can just pull it in, which is a lot easier. We can pull in new data sets a lot easier too.
The hiring recs just went down. So how do you guys approach? I've asked this question of pretty much every panelist whenever possible, because it is such a hard thing with everybody wanting to get the best talent possible,
Sure.
and you guys, I'm sure, are hiring as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we're always hunting.
What do you find that? What does your ideal candidate look like, and what are they looking for?
Oh, for sure. So I know we often will hire very specific to the spots that we're trying to fill, and sometimes that's not always apparent. Recently, we hired a couple people to kind of look at our data standards, and so for that, it was kind of an iterative process of us, finding the right people, and then really kind of narrowing down our search. I mean, in terms of the right candidates, usually we need them to fill a need right up front, and so we look for a certain set of skills just to kind of get them in the door, get them interviewed. But after that, we really need to know that we can kind of trust them with other things too, because as you know, I mean, stuff shifts around so frequently. Right. We need to be able to have team members also that can shift too. So kind of our ideal candidate will at least fit kind of our immediate needs. That way we have something to do on day one for them, and they have a challenge kind of right off the back. But then also there's definitely room for them to kind of branch out and see what other ways they can contribute to, which I find really fun, especially since I was hired more for the SQL side of things, but I've branched into so much more since. Yeah, it's been a really cool opportunity.
Cool. And folks generally like that, right? Rather than being pigeonholed, moving around and getting to explore the things.
For sure, yeah. And we do a lot of things internally too, like being able to, more or less intern with other divisions too. So if I wanted to go take a stint in engineering for a couple weeks, I could get approved for that really easily. There's always kind of room for growth and ways that you can kind of shift around in the company, and we see that quite a bit.
Cool. And do you guys generally try to also I would imagine soft skills are a big part of this as well. And what are your top 3 or 5 that you look for?
Data driven is definitely one of our kind of platitudes. It's one of our big deals that we try to follow. We call it sharkiness is another one. Tenacity might be a better word. We used to be called whale shark media, so the sharkiness is kind of part of that. But we look for go-getters. I mean, we really look for people who are interested in what they're doing, can find a way to just attack it and go after it. Those are kind of some of the big ones. But yeah, we definitely take into account whether or not we think culturally they'll be a fit. We passed on several people where I thought were just rock stars in what they were doing, but culturally, nobody really, we could just tell that in a couple months they'd either get bored or, personally, like they weren't just a fit for our company. And so we passed on them for that reason. Really, we look for a really good culture fit, yeah.
Cool, cool. You take the Netflix approach where I don't know if you read the Netflix Culture Manifesto.
Oh, I don't believe I read
you gotta
that,
read it.
no.
It's fantastic.
All right.
It's, they talk about, a lot of these concepts looking for the long haul, and they even pay a bonus to somebody. They give, I believe, I forget the amount, it's significant, it's a few $1,000 for you to leave the company after, I think it's like a couple weeks.
Oh, wow.
They say you can just leave now and we'll pay you this, I don't know, $3,000 or $4,000.
Huh. I didn't know about
Definitely
that.
check out the
I'll
Netflix Culture
yeah.
Manifesto. Good stuff. So it sounds like you guys have gotten some good results from using Tableau. Can you share like numbers or what happened?
Yeah, for sure. I think the easiest number for me to share is speed.
Okay.
It has enabled us to, as I mentioned, the implementation for a dashboard time takes very little effort. We can get those out really fast. But even on top of that, we're giving useful analysis to people who either didn't have the data really available to them before, and if they did, it might take them, all right, I pull the data in this way, and then I take a couple hours every Friday to get it to where I need. We save hours of time, per team member, usually on every report that we touch. And that's in addition to actually enabling additional functionality too. We may be able to pull in analysis where it wasn't before. Maybe they just pulled in a flat list before and they had an arbitrary way of sorting it. Now we can come in with analytics, give them the data faster so that they don't have to do any work themselves, as well as sort that list for them, just saving them loads of time. It's not common for me to release a report and they're like, oh, that saves me like 10 hours a week. This is fantastic. And in the scheme of things, that's significant. It's powerful because we can iterate, and now their time is freed up to work on things that are much more interesting.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And do you have any stories of that? Like, I don't know, 4 or 5 of the guests at least have talked about where they walk into a meeting, with their tablet and Tableau loaded up, and somebody has a question, they answer it, and they find themselves digging down to deeper issues quicker, rather than, we're gonna have to, get back to you in the next meeting, and it drags on for weeks, and finally you've got an answer.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
By that time, the opportunity's lost. In a space like yours, it's got to move so quickly.
Oh, we move very, very fast. Yes. So one of the ways that we like to disseminate data, distribute it, is a lot of times we'll start with something more of like an executive level dashboard where we can see the numbers up front. There's not a lot of drill down capability within them, but it's a dashboard that an executive or someone high up can look at it, instantly know what's going on pretty quickly, and then if there's something going on, they can report that downward, and whoever can look into it. And then we'll implement after that something more along the lines of what like a manager would look at. Where you can drill down quite a bit, but still not quite to like the granular data, but you can pick out trends very quickly with the relevant filters that you might need. And then we actually have more of like our granular level sorting. So there's definitely been meetings where I've been in, they're like, hey, I used to work in content quite a bit. And they'd be like, hey, our submissions are down this week. What's going on? Can we identify, where that's coming from? And before, we'd have to type, do a bunch of queries, pull it all in. Now I can, with a couple, dashboard actions set, we can click, okay, well, this is where it's gone down for this time frame. Automatically highlights what comes next. Click on those things, where it looks a little fishy, automatically highlights next within the next, kind of cascading reports down. So we can very quickly, in a matter of minutes, drill down to like usually what the general issue is, and then from there we can address what it is.
Very cool.
I've had several meetings go that way, and it's really satisfying to not be like, well, I'll have to get back to you. Let me spend
another meeting.
Have another day, have another meeting. Now we can kind of do it in real time and figure out what's going on.
That is super cool.
Yeah.
So do you know what tools you guys used before you used Tableau? I'd be really interested, because it sounds like a lot. I was in this space a bit myself, and like you said, the custom rolled impression stuff that everybody builds themselves, and their own databases, their schemas. It seems like that is pretty much what everybody did before. I don't know.
Yeah, we certainly did a lot of just database analysis, and then a lot of times we'd export stuff into Excel too, and that. As you know, that gets really dicey because you produce one report in Excel and that file stays around for years and people keep referencing it, and then they'll ask for, hey, I need a refresh on this, and you're like, we haven't supported that in 6 months. You're like, let's do something else for you. And so it definitely got us faster, as well as kind of got us away from this archaic data that sits and stagnates to something that's refreshed all the time. We have a much better, feedback mechanism with our users using Tableau. It just kind of, it makes things better in bounds, not just in, by degrees.
Cool. Cool. And it sounds like I bet you guys have probably taken a lot of advantage of the community forums and just the whole community around that. What are some like tough questions that you had answered?
Oh, for sure.
By other users or by Tableau?
Yeah. So we try to get data as much out there as we can. Actually, if you're watching, RetailMeNot's/core/data. That's our data blog.
Cool.
We try to post on there things like we did March Madness. I actually just released one recently on similar subject to what my talk is about, data models and data dissemination. But we definitely try to kind of push that out there. And a lot of the comments we get are around how do we use Tableau, like certain things within it, because we'll embed visualizations within the actual web page itself, which is really cool. You can do it through JavaScript. We get a lot of questions on like, how did you do that? A lot of people just falling. Yeah,
it's a lot of work.
So that's really satisfying as an analyst that we can produce something that others are going to use for kind of a visualization standard.
That is very, very cool. John Kinder, I could go on talking for hours. So what is your talk and how can folks get there? Do you know your room number and everything?
Sure. It is Feeding the Data Shark. It's on Thursday at 10:15. I forget the room number. I believe it's on the 3rd floor though.
Cool. Sounds good. John Kinder.
Thank you very
Take
much.
Care.
Appreciate it.
Enjoy your day.
You too.